Insiders are revealing to me the true story of how Meghan Markle failed Oprah's interview when her credibility went down just as Boris Johnson's eyebrow.
It was the interview nobody could have predicted. The kind of bombshell that made people freeze mid-scroll and whisper, "Wait, what's really going on with Harry and Meghan?"
In a deliberate attempt to terrorize her long-suffering husband, Prince Harry.
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but that I won't be able to show, my children my home.
For years, Harry had Meghan's back no matter what, through every headline, every royal clash, every rumour that painted them as rebels one day, victims the next, and straight-up villains after that. He stayed solid beside her, no matter how wild things got. But now, everything's flipped in a way nobody saw coming.
Whenever there's a power imbalance, and that's what we are looking at here, no matter how much chemistry they had at first, it will be increasingly harder to last.
He sat in Montecito, twiddling his thumbs, thinking, what do I do next? What is my role? Where is my...
King Charles and Prince William still believe Meghan Markle is a bigger threat to the royal family.
Prince Harry is refusing, it seems, to play along with Meghan Markle's games, and that's proven, especially for me, with this staged Dodgers video that has just been...
Something in Harry's vibe has totally changed. In what people are calling his rawest, most unfiltered moment ever, he finally opened up about what really went down behind palace walls, and what Meghan did that made him see things differently. Those close to him say this is the first time he's speaking from the heart. No fear, no PR filters, and no Meghan directing the narrative. The once flawless royal fairy tale, it's cracking wide open. The world's watching as the charming, confident prince we all knew slowly fades into someone looking drained, distant and lost from everything he used to be.
I feel like Meghan's rebrand is just to say, I'm a victim. And she's about as far from a victim as you could possibly get.
And according to one insider who spilled to the Telegraph, Harry's finally seeing things for what they are. The insider claimed he's realizing the control, the pressure, the quiet manipulation that shaped his every move, piece by piece. For someone who always tried to stay strong, that kind of truth hit deep. And this moment didn't just appear out of thin air. It's been building behind the scenes for a long time. It all kicked off just last week. Harry popped up at a private wellness summit in California, an exclusive event all about men's mental health. At first, everything seemed chill, flashing cameras, polite smiles, the usual carefully worded answers. But then, a journalist dropped a question that cut straight through the calm like a blade. Do you ever feel like you lost yourself in love? The room went silent. Harry froze, his smile disappeared, and the air suddenly felt heavy. He took a deep breath, then said quietly, "There was a time I didn't even recognize the man in the mirror anymore. I thought I was finding freedom. But sometimes freedom feels like a cage." Boom! That one line, "freedom feels like a cage," sent shockwaves everywhere. Within minutes, clips of the moment were flooding every corner of social media. People couldn't stop talking about it.
I curtsied as though I was like, "Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty." Was that okay?
It's really quite sad.
Comment sections blew up and everyone was asking the same thing. Was he talking about Meghan? Even though he never said her name, everyone knew exactly who he meant. The internet went into full investigation mode, analysing every blink, every pause, every flicker in his eyes. Royal experts broke down his words like detectives. Psychologists shared deep takes, and old palace aides started whispering to the tabloids. One insider told the Daily Mail, that's the closest he's ever come to admitting regret, and it shows. And according to people close to the Sussex circle, things inside their Montecito mansion have been tense for months.
The strongest arguments about their relationship is that she's a dominant narcissistic woman that tricked him into doing all this.
The pressure's been rising, slow, steady, and impossible to ignore. The cracks first started to show during the drama around their stalled Netflix deal. Meghan was pushing hard for more shows, more contracts, more spotlight. And behind the scenes, that hunger for more might have been exactly what started pulling them apart. Bigger moves, bigger spotlight, that was Meghan's lane. But Harry? He just wanted something real, simple, quiet. He was craving peace of mind, not another photo op. One insider didn't hold back, saying flat out, "He's worn down. He's tired of being the prop, the spokesman, the husband who always nods behind closed doors. The pressure just kept piling up. Events, deals, appearances, endless talking points. Everything had to be polished, branded, and perfectly controlled.
And our culture of victimhood is really then a culture of narcissism. And Harry and Meghan are its perfect representatives because they are now king and queen victims.
And now, for the first time ever, it feels like Harry's finally asking himself how much of himself he's given away. Trying so hard to protect someone who might have never seen things through the same lens. That's what hit people deep when he spoke. It wasn't just sadness, it was realization. For years, Harry saw himself as the hero, the one stepping up to defend Meghan from what he viewed as an outdated, cold royal system. He genuinely thought he was rescuing her, shielding her from the same pain he'd grown up with. But now, that story's starting to shift, slowly, painfully. Because what if, all along, he was the one who actually needed saving? That thought didn't crash down overnight. It built up, piece by piece, quiet moments, long nights, and too much time to think. Watching from afar as life in the UK kept moving forward didn't help either.
Woman, please go back to California and be with your children and go and find a career other than just being desperate for attention every single.
His family seems to be healing. His brother looks confident, grounded, and steady. King Charles appears focused on building his legacy, leaving the drama behind. And there's Harry, stuck somewhere in the middle. Not fully tied to London anymore, but not exactly at peace in California either. It's like he's caught between two worlds, trying to figure out where he truly belongs. Emotionally, Harry seems completely stuck.
Why make Harry confront and distance himself from his brother William? Those are the questions that only match a narcissist's pattern.
Publicly, he still says things like, "I love the two of us." But insiders hint that what's happening behind the scenes is way more complicated. They claim Meghan keeps a firm hand on almost every part of their public life, every project, every phone call, every appearance. Nothing goes out without deep discussion first, according to people close to the couple. Sources say there's constant worry about Harry speaking too freely, especially without sticking to their shared plan. And at that wellness summit,
especially when he's on the BBC saying that it's not safe enough for my family in the UK.
That exact fear might have come true. When Harry dropped that line, "Freedom feels like a cage," everything blew up online within minutes. Behind the scenes, things reportedly got tense fast. Advisors were scrambling, trying to manage the fallout, reaching out to media contacts, checking how the quote spread so quickly. But by then, the clip had already exploded across every platform. People were calling it one of Harry's most real and unguarded moments ever. And according to sources, Meghan wasn't happy about it one bit. One insider even said she confronted him, accusing Harry of being careless and handing tabloids fresh gossip on a silver platter.
Surprise, surprise, it was Meghan Markle.
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now. I like working hard.
But this time, he didn't fold. He didn't backtrack or apologize like before. He stayed calm, stood his ground, and didn't take the comment back. Since that moment, fans and royal watchers have been noticing subtle shifts whenever they appear together. Harry's quieter, more distant. He's even started attending certain charity events solo, and when he does, he carries himself differently. More thoughtful, more reserved. And after that on-stage comment, there was another little moment that caught people's attention. Harry reportedly stayed behind for a private chat with a smaller group. Whatever was said there, it's clear something in him has changed, and the world's starting to see it. People who were in that private room say Harry got real for a moment. When someone asked about his mental health journey, he opened up in a way nobody expected. He said, "Healing means telling the truth, even when it hurts the people you love." That line hit hard. It sounded like a man caught in a storm, torn between loyalty and the need to finally be honest with himself. The media wasted no time jumping on it. Within hours, headlines were screaming about marriage troubles and deep regret. Sure, tabloids tend to exaggerate, but some insiders swear this time it's serious. Friends close to Harry say he's not the same person he was a year ago. They describe him as quieter, more withdrawn. One old military buddy told the Mirror he used to be the guy cracking jokes, buying the next round. Now he just stares at his drink.
when they were at the softball and the kiss cam came on. And a lot of people have commented on this, but I want to comment on the specific technique. And
that same friend shared another quote from Harry himself. "Sometimes I miss being invisible." That hit deep, especially coming from someone who walked away from royal life to find privacy. It shows he's still searching for that balance, that sense of self, that peace he thought he'd find outside the palace walls. And here's the tough truth. Harry's chase for freedom might have turned into the very thing trapping him. Those luxury deals, the Netflix contracts, the documentaries, the global interviews, all the things meant to give him purpose. They're starting to look more like pressure than freedom. Everything shines on the outside, but underneath, it's heavy, really heavy. What was supposed to be liberation now looks more like another cage, this time built from fame, money, and expectations. Insiders say Meghan sees the shift happening right in front of her eyes. But according to people close to their circle, her main worry isn't the marriage. It's the brand, the image, the empire they built together. This new, unfiltered version of Harry, open, emotional, and unpredictable, could shake the whole foundation. One Hollywood insider reportedly said, "If he keeps talking like this, the facade cracks. And once it cracks, it's over."
It's really quite sad.
Who does this? Who behaves like this?
She was the villain.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her.
That's the real fear behind closed doors. So now everyone's asking the same question. Is this the beginning of the end? Because Harry isn't just being emotional anymore. He's diving into deep stuff. He's talking about control, identity, and what it really costs to love someone when you start to lose yourself in the process. And the wildest part? He's saying it out loud. Every word feels like he's walking off script, testing the limits, seeing what happens if he finally speaks his truth. For years, critics claimed every public word from him was carefully crafted and managed. But now, his tone feels raw, less polished, more human.
To a micro-expression of frustration right at the same time that Meghan says that she didn't know much.
This is gross and grim and deranged on every level.
Then she looks away from him and tenses her jaw. At looking away, that jaw tension that's covered anger.
And based on reports, Meghan's reaction said it all. This moment was serious. That summit clip spread like wildfire, millions of views in just hours. Social media blew up with theories, breakdowns, and endless speculation. Analysts replayed his quotes frame by frame, while fans debated whether Harry was finally breaking free or breaking down. Sources say Meghan went straight into crisis mode. Phones were ringing non-stop, advisors scrambling, messages flying out to media contacts, everyone trying to contain the damage. One insider summed it up perfectly. "It was all hands on deck. Whatever happens next, it's clear the cracks are showing, and the world's watching every move." Reports claim that when those viral clips started blowing up online, Meghan was furious. Insiders say she was spotted pacing around their Montecito mansion, phone in hand, urgently snapping, "Get it taken down. I don't care how. Flag it. Call the press team. Fix it now." Whether every single detail is true or not, one thing's undeniable. The moment couldn't be contained. Harry's words, "Freedom can look a lot like a cage," were already everywhere. Screenshots, headlines, reaction videos, it flooded the internet, and no PR statement could erase what people had already seen and felt. For years, Meghan has been known for her tight control over their image. Every interview fine-tuned, every podcast polished, every camera angle intentional. Her supporters call it smart branding. Critics, they call it calculated. But this time, the control slipped right through her fingers.
I have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie, because this video designed to mentally torture her.
According to insiders, that loss of control exploded into a heated showdown when Harry got back from the summit. Sources say Meghan confronted him directly, and what followed was one of their biggest arguments ever. She allegedly accused him of making her look manipulative, of feeding the tabloids the exact narrative she's been fighting against for years. One insider claimed she shouted that he'd made her seem like some controlling, scheming wife, and that he'd damaged everything they'd built together. But here's where things took a turn. This time, Harry didn't fold. He didn't apologize, didn't backtrack. Instead, he looked her in the eye and said calmly, "I didn't ruin anything. I just told the truth." 6 simple words. But insiders say those words changed everything. The whole tone shifted. Meghan reportedly exploded. The argument flared up even more, and it ended with her storming off and slamming a door so hard it shook the room. It was the kind of moment that says more than any interview ever could. The mask of perfection slipping, and the cracks in the royal escape plan now impossible to hide. The real explosion didn't happen inside their mansion. It happened online. The moment Harry's clip hit the internet, royal commentators went into overdrive. Every pause, every flicker in his eyes, every shift in his tone, dissected frame by frame. Twitter threads multiplied by the minute. TikTok creators analyzed his body language like detectives, and YouTube channels dropped full-length breakdowns trying to decode what Harry really meant. And one message kept surfacing across all of it.
I just spoke to somebody that said their palace sources say perhaps the king would plan to meet with Prince Harry at the beginning of 2026. Meghan Markle has no desire to return to the UK because she knows how simply loathed she is.
Harry's reaching a breaking point. Even parts of the British press, the same media machine he's fought for years, jumped right into the frenzy. Headlines sharpened, talk shows buzzed, and the tone went from curious to straight-up intense. Suddenly, it wasn't just gossip anymore. It felt like something bigger was unraveling right in public view. Whether this is just a storm or something much deeper, no one knows for sure. But one thing's crystal clear. The story has changed. And now, everyone's watching closer than ever. By the next morning, the headlines were ruthless. Harry's cryptic confession. Trouble in paradise? Sussex fairy tale falling apart? Freedom or regret? The tone was sharp, dramatic, almost hungry. But here's the twist that caught everyone off guard. Harry didn't seem shaken at all. According to a close friend, he actually looked relieved, like a man who had finally exhaled after years of holding his breath. He looked lighter, the friend said. It was like he finally said something he's been holding in for years. That same friend claimed this was the first time Harry seemed truly honest. With the public and with himself, he quietly admitted that his life didn't turn out the way he once pictured.
I think she sold Harry a sad story, a poor girl story. She had to keep the bus out of it because it's not a true story.
Not the freedom he imagined, not the peace he hoped for, not even the clarity he thought he'd find once he broke away from the crown. It was a sobering realization, but Meghan wasn't about to let that version of the story take over. Behind the scenes, sources say she was already strategizing, figuring out how to steer the narrative back in their favor. Because one thing's certain, when the image starts to crack, control becomes everything. And now, with the world dissecting every move, Meghan's next steps could decide whether this modern fairy tale gets rebuilt or collapses completely. According to insiders, Meghan didn't panic. She planned. The moment that viral chaos erupted, she switched straight into strategy mode. Calls were made immediately, friendly journalists were looped in, and within hours, carefully worded exclusive sources started popping up in all the big outlets.
She thinks that's a win, Brittany? No, we see you, Meghan. We see you, and now the world sees you.
It was classic Meghan, swift, calculated, and coordinated. Within just 48 hours, the story began to twist in a new direction. Suddenly, the headlines had softened. Harry wasn't breaking down. He was just reflecting. He wasn't unhappy, just tired. He wasn't cracking, just processing. It was a textbook PR pivot, clean, smooth, and tightly managed. But while the media played along, the internet wasn't buying it. Online, the mood was completely different. That original clip of Harry felt too real, too emotional, too human to be brushed off with a few headlines. People flooded the comments with harsh takes. He looks miserable. That's not reflection. That's regret. She's protecting herself, not him. And that became the dominant feeling online. Harry didn't look free anymore. He looked trapped. Trapped in a life that had become louder, heavier, and lonelier than he ever imagined. Trapped behind closed doors that the world would never truly see.
When you look at Meghan and you look at how she is the one that really is controlling Harry, there's absolutely...
Friends say he started to pull back after that moment, spending long stretches alone in the garden, having quiet nights by the fire, skipping events he used to enjoy. The easy charm, the small talk, it all started to fade. One insider described him as drifting. He reportedly stopped returning calls from some of Meghan's Hollywood contacts. Invitations slowed down. Appearances were quietly declined. The glamour that once defined their California chapter suddenly felt hollow to him, like it wasn't feeding his soul anymore. And with that silence came a hard realization that hit deep. As one insider put it bluntly, he's got no family nearby, no lifelong friends in the room. For years, the loudest voice guiding him has been hers. And when that truth finally hit him, it hit hard. Because once you start questioning your own reality, once you start asking yourself what's real and what's been carefully constructed, there's no easy way to unsee it. You can't just go back. You can't rewind the story once you've realized you might not have been the one writing it. Sources say Harry quietly started reaching back into his old life, calling up people he hadn't spoken to in years. A few old army buddies, a former palace aide who once handled his schedule, people who knew him before everything changed. He wasn't trying to make a statement or plan a comeback. He just wanted to reconnect, to remember who he was before the cameras and chaos reshaped his world. He wasn't rewriting history. He was trying to find himself again. Meanwhile, insiders say Meghan was feeling the heat from a totally different direction. Public opinion was shifting fast. The media deals that once made her untouchable were losing steam. Spotify was done. Netflix momentum had slowed. And suddenly the one thing she thought she could always count on, Harry's loyal public support, wasn't guaranteed anymore. So, according to reports, she began planning what insiders are calling her counter-move.
See her face. You get here, mate. But on stage, when they knew everyone was filming on their mobile phones and taking pictures, it got even worse.
Plans started forming for a glossy magazine spread, a comeback-style feature with carefully chosen photos and an emotional, controlled interview. The goal? To remind the world of the narrative that once worked so powerfully, Meghan as the misunderstood woman fighting bias, cruelty, and constant misinformation. But this time, the world didn't bite. Hollywood stayed silent. Fashion insiders didn't rush to post or defend her. The talk shows that used to praise her kept things vague and diplomatic. Even her former allies stayed quiet. That instant wave of sympathy that once surrounded her. It wasn't there anymore. And in that silence, the pressure reportedly hit hard. One staff member claimed they overheard Meghan late one night, her voice emotional over the phone, saying, "I gave up everything for him, everything, and now he's making me look like the villain." Whether that moment happened exactly as described or not, the tension between them was undeniable. But here's what stands out most. Harry wasn't attacking her. He wasn't throwing shade, naming names, or laying blame. He was speaking about identity, truth, and the painful process of healing. And that same week, while headlines spun and speculation burned, Harry slipped away from the chaos and attended a small, private veterans gathering in Santa Barbara. No cameras, no contracts, no stage lights. Just him surrounded by people who reminded him of simpler times. For a few hours, it wasn't about brands or image. It was about connection, memory, and maybe starting to heal for real. The veterans gathering in Santa Barbara couldn't have been more different from the Hollywood chaos Harry had gotten used to. No flashing cameras, no red carpets, no brand strategy sessions waiting afterward. Just a quiet room filled with people who'd lived real lives. Former service members sat together, coffee cups in hand, swapping honest stories about life after the uniform.
That she is embarking on Freudian transfer.
Not knowing about it, I reverted back to 12-year-old Harry.
She is using a real childhood trauma that Prince Harry suffered from, losing his mother.
After everything that had happened to my mum, and to now be put in a position of losing another woman in my life.
And she has used it to further harness him to her and their relationship. She has convinced him, he actually believes that Meghan Markle is Princess.
And for the first time in what felt like forever, Harry actually looked comfortable. One attendee later shared that he fit right in. No rehearsed lines, no polished PR smiles, just listening, nodding, and speaking only when it felt real. During a small group talk about life after service, Harry said something that froze the whole room. When you lose your role, you start wondering who you are without it. That hit deep. In that moment, he wasn't the prince, the husband, or the celebrity. He was just a man trying to find himself again. A veteran, stripped of titles and pressure, reconnecting with the part of his soul that existed before the spotlight. People there said he didn't rush to leave. He stayed longer than planned, talking, laughing, listening. He wasn't glued to his phone. He wasn't performing. He was present. And that presence, quiet and grounded, said more than any interview or headline ever could. Sources say this wasn't random. It's part of a quiet shift. Lately, Harry's been spending more time revisiting the spaces and causes that once kept him grounded. Military charities, small private events where no cameras are allowed, no scripts, no media angles, just authenticity. It's less about image now and more about meaning, less noise, more substance. But as Harry reconnects with his roots, insiders say the gap between him and Meghan's public strategy is getting harder to ignore. While she's still focused on visibility and narrative, he seems to be searching for something deeper, peace, purpose, and a version of himself that doesn't need the spotlight to feel real. Insiders say Meghan still favors high-visibility moves, big-name partnerships, powerful media positioning, and projects that keep her in the spotlight. But Harry, he's shifting in the complete opposite direction. Lately, he's leaning into low-profile, impact-driven work, projects with heart, not hype. At first, that difference might sound small, but for a couple built on shared messaging, it's becoming a real point of tension. Their paths don't seem aligned anymore, and that quiet disconnect is starting to show. Friends close to Harry say he's been asking himself deeper questions lately, not dramatic or angry ones, just calm, honest reflections. Questions like, what does peace actually look like for me? What kind of father do I want to be? What legacy feels real, not rehearsed? And those kinds of questions can change a person. Someone who attended that veterans event shared that after Harry spoke about mental health, a man thanked him for being open. Harry just smiled and said softly, "It's easier to tell the truth when you stop trying to protect an image." That line never went viral. It didn't trend on TikTok or get clipped into reaction videos, but for the people who heard it, it meant something. It felt like honesty, raw, quiet, and real. Back in Montecito, though, the atmosphere reportedly feels tense, but still controlled. No dramatic fights, no big public statements. Careful silence. Their schedules seem separate more often now, their joint appearances fewer and further apart. And when they are seen together, people can't help but notice the difference. Their body language feels polite but distant. Still united on paper, but emotionally, something's shifted underneath the surface. What makes this moment different isn't one huge argument or one viral headline. It's the pattern, the steady pullback, the subtle change in tone. The way Harry's energy feels different, less defensive, more introspective. For years, the world saw him as reactive, always responding to the palace, to the press, to critics. But now, he's reflective.
He constantly is living this life of demanding extra because he's Prince Harry. Bro, when you left the royal family, you became some random dude. Let's keep it honest. Who was Prince Harry?
So many people, they want all the privileges. They want all of the honors. They want all the plaudits, but they don't want to do.
He's taking a breath, stepping back, and finally starting to ask who he really is, without the noise, the pressure, or the brand attached to his name. And that shift, it's powerful, because once someone starts to remember who they were before the spotlight, before the judgment, before the story everyone else wrote for them, it's almost impossible to silence that rediscovered voice ever again. No Meghan, no cameras, no stylists, just Harry. A man in a room surrounded by people who knew him long before everything changed, before walking away from royal duty, before the Netflix contracts, before California became his new version of normal. Witnesses from that veterans gathering said he looked different, emotional, not polished, honest, not rehearsed, just human. At one point, while speaking to a small group, Harry said softly, "You don't realize how lost you are until someone takes the compass away." The room went silent. Then he added, "I thought I was doing the right thing, but somewhere along the way, I stopped being me." Those words landed like a punch to the chest. Veterans later said it didn't sound like a prince talking. It sounded like a man finally letting his guard down after years of pretending to be okay. Behind the fame, the interviews, and all the public tension, they saw someone carrying the weight of his choices, and maybe, for the first time, setting some of it down. There were no official clips, no PR cameras catching the moment, but word of what he said spread quickly within that tight-knit community. People couldn't stop talking about how real it felt. Many said it confirmed what they'd quietly suspected for a while, that Harry's biggest battle wasn't about reputation or press headlines. It was about identity. And then, just when people thought things might quiet down, another twist hit the story. Shortly after that event, a journalist with strong royal connections dropped an unexpected report.
kids that's fun, so many good songs. And I've become that mom where I'm like sitting around with friends and I start singing like, Tyrannosaurus, that's the chorus, Tyrannosaurus. I was like, what am I singing? Oh my gosh, I'm singing Storybook. I'm singing Storybooks. I am not singing Beyonce.
It hinted that Harry's emotional honesty wasn't just a personal moment. It might mark the beginning of something bigger, something shifting behind palace walls, and maybe within Harry himself. According to insiders, Harry's been quietly working on something totally new, a project that's nothing like his past ones. It's not another memoir, not a glossy Netflix-style documentary. This one's different. Sources say it's deeply personal, focused entirely on him. No royal drama, no finger-pointing, no defending his past choices, just Harry, raw and reflective, telling his own story in his own voice. Those close to the project claim it's all about his inner world, his mistakes, his lessons, and the man he's becoming after all the chaos. One insider, who allegedly got an early look at the draft, described it as brutally honest. They said Harry opens up about how love, loyalty, grief, and public pressure can twist someone's sense of self until they hardly recognize who they've become. And here's the real twist. This time, he's not telling anyone else's story. Not Meghan's, not the palace's, just his own. That shift changes everything. Because when someone who's been part of a shared, carefully managed narrative starts speaking solo, it shakes the balance.
I would say about that, I think it's very important to shift this idea that play the opposite and make sure you can be taken seriously. My point in all of this is that no matter what you look like, you should be taken seriously.
Insiders say Meghan isn't thrilled about the direction. Not necessarily because she's against honesty, but because this kind of independence takes control away from the united front they've worked so hard to maintain. When one voice stands apart, the joint image starts to crack, and people notice. Observers who've seen Harry lately say he looks different, calmer, not louder, not dramatic, just steady, like a man who's finally stopped fighting to be understood and started focusing on understanding himself. For the first time in years, it feels like Harry's ready to stop managing the fallout and just let things fall where they may. Whatever comes next, one thing's clear. This isn't just another royal twist. It's personal, it's transformation. And it might just be the most real version of Harry the world has ever seen. If you've got thoughts about this, drop them in the comments below. If this breakdown gave you a whole new angle on what's really happening, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video.